Hi everyone, and welcome back again. And hopefully we're going to have something interesting to say here. I have the flower here just in case we get a call coming in. Okay, so on a serious note here, I'm still getting a lot of info from people on that spoof that I did, and apparently a lot of people thought it was funny as hell. I actually went back and listened to it and thought it was pretty damn good myself, if I do say so. Okay, a rather strange thing has happened as of late, and I wanted to discuss it in this video. I've had a person get a hold of me, actually two people get a hold of me, and they have asked me if I can give some information from my experience on Kundalini awakening during a twin flame connection. Sure, I can do that. Actually, to be honest with everyone, I'm really quite surprised that this hasn't come up sooner, but then again, I'm not surprised. It's really funny. You know, I guess most of you know that I do a lot of advising for people, call me, twin flame counselor, whatever you want to call. And one of the things that I hear people talking about all of the time is the connection, and it happens, and they make mention of, they experience energy during the connection, and that they experience heart center awakening, and then after that, all they want to talk about is, in a lot of cases, this is going to sound a little bit like I'm being sarcastic here, but this definitely relates to the ladies out there, because most of the people that go public, inquire, or seek out information on the twin flame connection are ladies, and I can assure you, in 95% of the cases, all they want to talk about is when they're going to get together with their man, or if it's a same-sex couple, or with their partner, or whatever. That's all they want to talk about. The basic content of perhaps talking about a Kundalini awakening or a heart center activation, which is probably just as important, if not more important, because we are so relationship bound in our society, and I do mean that, relationship bound. Our whole state of consciousness, our whole state of being, our whole state of living, our whole state of who and what we are in every segment of our society is all in regards to relationships and the interchange and the going on between men and women. And the most important part from my observation is the Kundalini awakening and the heart center activation. Now, I do want to mention here, just for the purpose of general information for people, is since I've been around for a long time, and I've been on YouTube a very long time also, it does give me an advantage in that I've had exposure to a lot of different segments of the twin flame experience and relationships as a whole, and also Kundalini experience. My own Kundalini awakened full bore when I was 37 years old, and I'm now 75, and it's still ongoing. So I cannot say that I'm an expert, but I can say that I've had a lot of experience from my own personal self and from the experience that other people have shared with me. So I can be helpful to people. At this point, from a, shall we say, observation point of view, the twin flame connection now has a standard procedure, which will be pretty much when someone has the connection, there will be a Kundalini awakening, heart center activation, and then go right into what I call the bubble love. It's obviously a mystical state of consciousness and the rest begins to unfold. Like I said, the issue at hand is most people, and if you go into any particular twin flame groups that are on Facebook, for example, you can see thousands and thousands of people in there, and 95% of them will all be women, and that's all they'll be talking about as a general rule. Not everyone, but as a general rule, all they talk about is getting together with the man or the partner or whatever. That's all they want to talk about. Kundalini, heart center activation really doesn't interest them all that much, but the only thing that matters is getting together with that man. And you may have noticed that if you go up on YouTube and you scroll from YouTube, all of the stuff that you'll see, majority, is ladies doing tarot cards, teapot and card ladies, as I like to call them, doing readings for people. And most of these people are women, and most of the readings are oriented towards getting together with their man. So when there is a need, there's always someone there that's going to fill it. Be it positive, creative, functional, dysfunctional, or whatever, it's going to be there. Now, one of the things that I mention also to some of these people when I'm offering them counseling, I do try to get them talking a little bit about the Kundalini experience. And one of the big problems that I have found with a lot of people is they know that they're going through some kind of energetic exchange. I mention to them, a lot of them, that they probably would want to Google that magic word, Google, what Kundalini Experience is all about, just so they can get a picture of it. But the one thing that I can say, when you have two people who have activated the Kundalini in each other through coming through the connection, one of the main points that I want to point out is, unfortunately, with the old relationship belief systems, a lot of people think that because of the intensity of it, that there is a relationship pending. A lot of people have found out to their own chagrin that that is not the case in a great many cases and situations. What it means is two people have come together energetically, and Kundalini in the heart center gets active for a reason. Why? Not because they're destined to be in a relationship, not because it's their soul contract or any of that hoopla stuff that a lot of people keep wanting to present. It's based on chemistry. It's based on alchemy. They come together because the cellular, the molecular, the vibrational patterns, the personality traits, the chakra lineup is similar and compatible to initiate this Kundalini experience for the purpose of also activating the heart center so they can ultimately move away from something, and that is the emotional experience of love, to the spiritual experience, but it doesn't necessarily mean what's going to be with that person. Now, one of the things that I have also seen is a great many people, when having a Kundalini experience, end up because their behavior changes very quickly. Their personality changes very quickly. And they start doing, in a lot of cases, some very erratic, unusual, strange things. And people around them can be a real problem. Because suddenly you have somebody going through this experience where their behavior has changed. They're exhibiting strange phenomena called psychic manifestation or psychic phenomena, or mental abilities or mental attributes that they didn't have before, and they're experiencing a world of inner light, inner dimensions, inner realities, inner conversations. They're talking to non-physical beings and or entities, and this can be happening not just to people having a twin flame connection, but this can be happening to anyone in the general population. And what's happening is they're ending up, of course, going and getting diagnosed, and they have all kinds of diagnoses made to them, and some of them are interned, is the word I'm going to use, in mental institutions and treated as some kind of a psychotic, when actually, in fact, there's nothing wrong with them. they're only having a Kundalini awakening. In many other situations with people, and I'm going to say this, this is really important. I don't think that, I think that, let me rephrase that. I think that more emphasis needs to be placed on becoming more aware of the Kundalini part of it, not suggesting that the person involved is not important. That person involved who you connected with is important. But I think emphasis needs to be placed also on the Kundalini experience, because the experience and the connection between the two people can be much more balanced if it's going to be long-term, short-term, or whatever. But whatever the case may be, it can be much more balanced and much more interesting if the person will start looking at the Kundalini part of it as being just as important. Now, some suggestions that I would make here is this. One of the, and I'm going to call this a problem, one of the problems that I've noticed with some people that I've counseled is one of the first questions I'll ask them when I hear the energies moving through the body and they perhaps heard of Kundalini and they know the word, and they have just a very basic awareness of it. I'll say to them, do you meditate? And a great many times I get the answer, no. So I want to say this to people who may be listening to this video. I don't imagine this is going to be a real mind blower of viewers are going to listen to this video, but there will be a few. That you need to understand something. Most of you realize that when you have the twin flame connection, life is never quite the same again for you. Let me tell you something else. When Kundalini gets active in your body, you're going to make some changes because you have to, not necessarily because you want to. Let me put it in significance that ladies will really understand, all right? Because ladies are the ones I'm really talking to here now. Because you're so hung up in a lot of cases. Now, I know there's a lot of ladies who are not, but the majority of ladies that I come in contact with and the ones that are in Facebook, the only thing they really care about is getting together with that man. That's all they want. That's all they're obsessed with, is getting together with that twin flame, no matter what. What you're going to have to do is, as I said, get more oriented towards understanding what's going on with the Kundalini experience. And many ladies know who have had children, right? The one thing that you know when you have a child, all right, life as you knew it is gone. It's done. It's finished. You have a whole new responsibility now. And your goals and aspiration and your dreams in many cases have to be put on the shelf a little bit, or put on the shelf for an extended period of time, because now you have the responsibility for another life for the next 20 years at least. And from what I understand nowadays, some people are still parenting their kids and paying their bills in their late 20s and early 30s. You know, it's like you ever wonder when our society's ever going to grow up and learn how to survive. It never fails, eh? Anyway, the one thing that I suggest to people is, if you are having a Kundalini experience and you're having it in the twin flame connection, for Pete's sakes, learn how to meditate. The one thing that I have seen is a major big problem with people is when you do not allow, understand, when the Kundalini mechanism awakens within you, what happens is it needs appropriate time or an appropriate place to be able to move, and you allow the experience to do something. A lot of people that I talk to will tell me, oh, well, no, they don't really meditate, they don't have time, they're too busy this, they're too busy doing that, they're too busy doing that. And I say, well, when do you have the intense experiences that you're having with this energy? Well, it always seems to come at a very inconvenient time. I'm at work, or I'm doing something, or I'm busy, or I'm trying to get to sleep at night, and all of a sudden all of this stuff starts coming into play. Well, this is exactly what I'm saying, is if you don't take the time somewhere in your life, in your day, your 24-hour day, to give time for the body to simply relax and let go and allow that energy to move, what's going to happen is it's going to build up, and it's going to build up, and it's going to build up. and then all hell's going to break loose, and it's going to come into focus with a roar. So why not take 10 or 15 minutes a day and learn how to meditate? Learning how to meditate is not complicated. All you got to do is close your eyes, take 2 or 3 nice little breaths, and relax, and do nothing. Here again is the problem. Because we've become so oriented to the external and stimulus from the external world, all right, an example, case in point. How many of you out there don't have a cell phone? How many? How many of you out there don't have a cell phone? Pretty much everybody, right? What are you doing all day? All day long. What are you doing? You're on your cell phone. You're constantly in communication with other people. You're constantly flipping through different parts of the internet. You're looking at this, you're screening that. You can't even walk down the street without holding these stupid things in your hands. All right? Adults, for Pete's sake, adults walking down the street and you're doing this. Everybody's walking down the street doing this. So how are you going to be in a situation to pay attention to any Kundalini awakening that's going on within you if you're so oriented towards external stimulation and you don't realize that the best stimulation on the planet, a Kundalini awakening you've been blessed with, and you don't even want to acknowledge it? Much less pay attention to the heart center activation that's going on within you and learn what's going on. So the end result is you have a Kundalini awakening going on, you have a heart center activation going on, and all of a sudden a whole pile of you out there are complaining, oh, wow, I had this energy going up and there's a big thing open up in the middle of my chest and all of a sudden my life went to shit, I lost my job, I can't do this, I can't do all of the stuff that I was doing before. I mean, my life is changing, my marriage is falling apart, and yada, 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 and yada, yada, yada. You know what? That's because you're so oriented towards the external as a form of entertainment or stimulation that when something creative and marvelous and a mechanism awakes within you, because it's not part of our general society of relationships, love, sexuality, and expression creativity, we don't want to pay any attention to it. It's more of a hindrance than anything else. Oh, well, you know, I was going to move, and ever since this damn Kundalini awakened, I can't do this anymore, and I can't do that anymore, and my nights are all screwed up, and my status quo is all shot to shit. Well, maybe it's someone's time to tell you something, and maybe some creative force, some power beyond ourselves that knows, has knowledge, experience, and just defines the experience. And don't get religious on me here because this has nothing to do with religion. Is trying to evolve and change you, and you don't see it as a blessing, a gift. You see it as a pain in the ass, and it screws up your social life. Well, whoop-de-doo. So this is what I suggest to people, that you learn how to meditate. The other thing is you're going to expect, what is the purpose of Kundalini? The purpose of Kundalini is to change, modify the physical structure, the mental and emotional body, and more importantly, your consciousness and your stream of consciousness, but most important of all, to recalibrate, regenerate, and reactivate dormant parts of the brain. Now, let me point out here, just for the sake of excitement, titillation, and to get you all going with some really juicy stuff, all right? What is, in later years, the biggest problem with people who are aging? One of them is dementia, all right? And diseases and or conditions, Alzheimer's. Where do these all originate from? From the material in the head, all right? And this is the purpose of Kundalini. to reactivate, to re-stimulate, to reorganize, to rewire the hemispheres of the brain and bring the dormant parts more into active, because there's a lot of dormant parts there. And I'll share a little experience with you. I want everybody to kind of understand that the Kundalini awakening is the most important part. It really is, at the soul level. Let me share with you a marvelous experience that I had some years ago. It was really, really, really wonderful. And I will never forget it as long as I live. I've had so many really exciting Kundalini experiences. I journaled for 9 years. I have all of the journals still, going back 35 years ago, of all my Kundalini experiences. I journaled them all. That's writing by hand. All right, that's not recording it. That's writing it by hand. I have them all. And I had a period of time when I was, if I recall, let me see here, would be about 42, 43, somewhere around there. And I had just bought myself a house because I was single, and I wanted to buy a piece of property. And before I moved into the house, and it was in April. It was in April, and I started having this experience. I would go into a meditation, or even when I would go to bed at night, and as soon as I was in any kind of a relaxed position, it even would happen at work, if you can believe this. And can you imagine, I'm a locomotive engineer, and I'm responsible for this big engine, okay? And I'm got this large train behind me that I'm responsible for. And it would happen there too. And suddenly I would feel this liquid, warm flow, go up my back. It would go up into my head. And then all of a sudden, if I closed my eyes, all I could see behind my eyes was this luminous golden light. Okay? And it would start to expand. It would get bigger. And I could actually feel my head cracking. I could hear cracking sound. And my inner vision would begin to expand, and it would get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until actually I could see all around my head in all directions, kind of thing like that. And my thinking, if that's the right word, became nonlinear, not as we think. It became fluid. Let me put it that way. So the one thing that I knew to do was not to go and see my physician. And I sure as hell wasn't going to go and see a priest and see if I was being touched by God. All right? I knew what I was being touched with. It was Kundalini. This Kundalini experience went on from April, May, June, July, August, September. That many months. And then it stopped. Just like that. And the gold light just kind of went back to a normal state of consciousness. But I knew the significance and the importance of this. Now, I know a great many of you out there are having similar types of experiences. And I'm not trying to say I'm special or unique. I'm not. I'm just an average person in average society living an average life. That's all I am. And everybody out there is having experiences, excuse me, at this particular point. So what I'm trying to emphasize to people here is this, and what is the one thing that I did? What I did was I learned very, very quickly that I needed to work in complementary fashion with this experience. So I adjusted my life and my lifestyle to my Kundalini experience. I would allow myself, in some cases, initially when Kundalini started awakening within me, the one thing that I did right off the bat is I would meditate on every opportunity that I would get during the day. And I was working, and let's check this out. At that time, I was working 3 shifts, days, graveyards, and afternoons. And if any of you have worked graveyard shift, you know what it's like and how it screws up your metabolism. And also, I didn't have weekends off. I was on what was called a 7-week schedule. I would get days off like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. and I wouldn't see a weekend for 7 weeks in a row. And then some genius came up with putting us on all 12-hour shifts, which was even better. All right. And in that, I managed to find time to meditate initially in the beginning, 2 to 3 hours every 24-hour cycle, because I was going through the Kundalini experience. And I knew allowing it and adapting my life was very important. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're going through the Kundalini experience, get as informed as you can. Talk to people who have gone through it. And I don't mean talk to people who are going through it now or just started in the last year. I'm saying get a hold of people who have been going through it for 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years even. Those people will know what they're talking about, and they're the result of their own Kundalini experience to this particular point in time. So they have some experience, they have some wisdom, and they have knowledge that you can use to help you and to see and keep you going through a lot of the situations that are totally unnecessary. I see it all the time. I go into a Facebook group, a Twin Flame group, and I read comments, and I can see how people are talking. And I can see right away, I can tell right away, the ones that are going through a Kundalini experience and are having problems with it, just by the way their mental expressions, their verbal expressions come out. The other thing that's very important that I've noticed is dietary intake. If you're going through a Kundalini awakening, I don't care what your age is. You can be in your teens, you can be in your 20s, you can be in your 30s, you can be in your 40s, whatever. What you don't realize is this. I know when you're 20 and 30, and up to the time you're about 40, everybody thinks they're immortal. All right? And people who are in their 20s don't think that any damage is ever going to come to them for all of the silly, crazy things they do. I used to think that way too. But when Kundalini comes active in you, that energy is, let me give you an example, how potent that energy is and what it does to the body. When I first began my awakening, like I said, I was 37, and I was in a relationship. And suddenly, when the Kundalini activated, and I had the fire go up my back, and it stayed going like that in complete circuits for about 9 hours straight, 2 things significantly happened to me. 1, all sexual energy disappeared like that and stayed dormant for almost a year, which created an endless amount of problems in the relationship that I was in. Not only did I not think about sex, I didn't want anything to do with sex, and it just wasn't there. And the appropriate mechanism for manifesting sex shrunk down to about the size of my little finger. Now, for a guy, that's a major situation. But somehow I intuitively knew that the loss of sexual energy, and what happened to me was because I had gone through a very intense awakening, and every piece of energy, especially sexual energy, sperm in a male is full of high octane nutrients. And it was very essential that I not expend that during the time that the changes were being made initially in the body. Now, in some cases, the reverse will apply. Some people, when they begin a Kundalini awakening, are going to get as horny as a two-peckered owl. They really are. Did you like that expression? Horny as a two-peckered owl? Hey, what can I say? You know, Mel, he's a little unusual. All right. I like being unusual. I don't want to be normal. But anyways, that's what happened. You can go the other way, because the sexual energy produces more of the energy at that level. Even females have, sperm, call it what you will. And it's full of nutrients also. And in many cases, you'll see women who have Kundalini awakening, suddenly their periods will stop for months. Why? Because all of the nutrients are being absorbed for the changes that are going through the body. But we don't talk about these kind of things in our society. We don't talk about it in the Twin Flame community, even though it's happening on a daily basis to many people. And the other thing that's important is diet, food intake. If you are going through a Kundalini awakening at any stage and at any age, junk food, pop, canned food, frozen food, all of that crap, entertainment food as it is not good for the body. I'll give you an example. I said this before in another video. When I began my awakening, I lived on salads with oils and sardines for almost 9 months, and I loved it. I had no taste for anything else. I needed certain things that was in that food, and I knew it. And people around me would say, "Are you out of your mind? All you eat is sardines and salad in various different ways." And I said, "I need it because this is what I need to be doing." So when you're in this type of a thing in a twin flame connection, if you're getting, it doesn't matter what age you are, and you've activated the Kundalini energy, these are things you seriously need to consider. And I know a lot of people are shortchanging themselves in this department. All right, they're just sticking to their regular eating habits and piling all of that junk into their body, which is short-circuiting the Kundalini energy, which is manifesting in horrible and psychotic dream states and mental states, because the dietary intake is not sufficient to fuel the body. All right, so then based on where you come from on the planet, a different culture, a different race, or a different environment, the food stuff needs to be as local as possible. Eating exotic foods that come from another part of the planet that you may love to death is not good for the body, especially if you're going through a Kundalini awakening. All of this can be learned and acquired by somebody who's gone through the process at this particular point. And in the twin flame connection, it's important that the diet be considered. The other thing that is really crucially important is time for self. Now, what I mean by time for self is simply being by yourself, which in this day and age, all I ever hear from people all the time is, "Well, I'm so busy doing this and so busy doing that." You know what? Really, are you that busy? Or is it just that you've got so many unimportant things that you're doing that really are not that important, but you do them anyway because you got to think, you got to be on the go. You got to be doing this. You got to be doing that. You got to go here. You got to go there. The kids got to go here. The kids got to go there. Whatever. Or your job's got to do this. You got to go there. You do this, and that, and no time for self. This is when you're going to have Kundalini problems again, because you must make time for it. So the other thing that's important here is sleep. You know what? Let me tell you something. When I began my Kundalini awakening, I slept a lot whenever I could. And because I lived a staggered life with staggered days off and worked these ungodly hours, can you imagine some of the distress that I went through in these types of situations? Our society is not oriented towards people going through the twin flame Kundalini heart center activation. It's not. It truly is not. Our society is orchestrated towards the gross national product and having enough people around to fulfill the jobs to keep producing the tax base that the government is used to having and shafting us with. That's what it's all about. The school system that we have is not oriented towards people going through the Kundalini experience, much less an active heart center awakening. So again, you have the same problem. So it's called adapting, understanding, getting to know, nutrition, sleep, and getting around somebody who's already gone around this experience or through the experience to a degree. Everybody's going to have their own experience. Now, the other thing is this, the last thing I want to talk about before this video gets too long is this. When you understand the background of what you, look, let me put it this way. Everyone has had traumas in their life, all right? For example, and this is what I've learned about Kundalini. Whenever I have seen someone who's been shall we say, sexually abused. And when they have an active Kundalini start to take place, the experiences they're going to have, I've seen them. And they're basically oriented towards clearing out those impediments and blockages within the body. So it's going to be unique in that particular situation. So anybody who's gone through sexual abuse and has a Kundalini awakening is pretty much going to have a similar type of experiences, and I've seen them. And the same would apply to somebody who's got, let's say, a personality part of themselves that is, well, let's say this, none of us are perfect, right? We all got our little idiosyncrasies and character hang-ups and innuendos and little flaws that we need to work on. So Kundalini, when it's active, is trying to bring it into balance and correct it. So it's going to work with that. It's going to bring it out, and you're going to have an experiences and movement of energy through the body that are working towards correcting that. The other thing that Kundalini is going to do is it's going to throw your endocrine system out of whack, initially in the beginning, and probably down the road. And here's one of the biggest things that I've found at this point. As I said, our society is not in a situation to allow Kundalini awakenings to take place. And what we have in many people situations, we have a lot of people out there who have been diagnosed with that condition of the, oh, my cat, again, it's gone again. Fibromyalgia, that's what it is. Fibromyalgia is a very fancy word for we don't know what's wrong with you. All right? We have no idea. What it is it is something in the hereditary trait or the family lineage or the belief systems or the structures or the trauma aspect of an individual. And suddenly they have a Kundalini awakening. And because of the blockages and impediments that are there, the Kundalini energy can't move through the nervous system to open it up and release stuff. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean by that. One of the Kundalini experiences that a lot of people have had, and I've had it also, is when I first had my awakening after what happened initially in the beginning, is, and this went on for about 2 or 3 months afterwards, as I recall. Every time I would lay down, I would feel streams, okay, of energy moving. It would just be like I feel hot liquid, and it would move, run around all over my body in different places, down my legs and my back and up my neck and everything else. And it was like, it felt to me like my blood was boiling. And I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew it was something that was probably going to be positive. What I didn't know at the time was that the nervous system permeates the whole of the physical body in every aspect. So the Kundalini energy will go through the complete nervous system in an attempt to remodel it. And for me, it felt like a burning experience of all of these different veins and whatever else going through the body. And like I said, it went on for about 3 months. In someone who has fibromyalgia, that's the piece that doesn't take place. That's it. All right? The nervous system can't get or facilitate the Kundalini awakening because the blockages are too intense. So the person goes through all of this difficulty and the pain and the suffering that they do, and then they're medicated, which probably in a lot of cases doesn't make it any better. Whereas I believe that probably acupuncture or a good healer who knows something about the nervous system and the meridian system can actually help facilitate this kind of thing. And unfortunately, that's what's happening. That's just one example. Okay. Whoa, I've gone 38 minutes here on this boring video. Okay, I think I'll stop it there. But just to kind of finalize, points to remember. Diet. No matter what your age is and if you're opening, follow your indications for diet that your body needs. I don't care if you're a vegan, vegetarian, or whatever. Listen to the energy when it speaks to you to eat some stuff and eat it, get it, whatever it is, and don't follow your silly belief system rule about veganism or vegetarianism is going to get you to and make you more spiritual. Veganism and vegetarianism will get you no quicker to enlightenment than a kick in the ass with a frozen boot. Let me assure you. Common sense prevails here when Kundalini awakening takes place, okay? Diet, sleep, and time for you, and learn how to meditate. 4 of the key ingredients. And number 5, find yourself someone like me or me, who can give you some input on the Kundalini experience based on their own experience over an extended period of time. Just to give you an example, when I do hear some of the people talking about their Kundalini experiences, what I say, and I look and I kind of listen to them, I can say to myself, I did all that stuff 35 years ago. So a lot of the stuff that you have happening to you now, I've already done it and been through it. I'm here. All you got to do is ask. Have a great day, everybody.